opposite from the show we did yesterday. We've changed things up because something has to change, because otherwise everything is pretty much still the same here.
Yeah, not a lot to report from Nashville.
That's just with the White Sox.
I was going to say, it's not just us. That is baseball at large. Obviously, there's some dribs and drabs of what's going on with the Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes, but boy, is it slow going here for baseball at this year's winter meetings.
There's still things to report. We're still going to bring you through Vinnie reported, what Herb was able to observe here, what I was able to observe. So we're going to go through those things. There's talk about Eric Fedde coming back from Korea and potentially pitching for the White Sox. Vinnie wrote a great article about the catching situation, so we're going to dive into those things. We're also just going to talk about assistant GM Josh Barfield and what he had to say about the Dylan Cease situation. First off, though, our icebreaker. Last night, we went out and had a little bit of Nashville flavor. Vinnie, you took us to a barbecue restaurant. I forget the name already, but
I think Edley's it was called. I don't know if that's a local staple or not, but
we're staying in an Airbnb in a neighborhood that kind of reminds me of Wicker Park or Bucktown, and
it's a cool spot.
It's kind of it was a cool spot. Herb, what was your review of the barbecue there?
I had the smoked wings, so I enjoyed my 8 smoked wings with the white barbecue sauce, mainly because on the show Master of None, they did the same white barbecue sauce when they had the Nashville date. So, yeah, I enjoyed it thoroughly. The fries were mid. The macaroni cheese was not that great. But the cornbread, I got a big piece of cornbread, Casey. It was delicious, too. Mm-hmm.
Casey got skimped on the cornbread and hasn't stopped talking about it.
And then I had the boozy shake, too. Oh,
the boozy shake looked good.
Delicious. That's what made the whole night, the chicken wings and the boozy shake. But otherwise, no, not that great.
Vinnie?
It's Nashville, so you got to kick the spice up. I've got to get a hot chicken sandwich before we leave town, probably tomorrow. But so I went with a hot pulled pork, and so that was a little spicy as well, which I enjoyed. I liked that it was spicy. I had some beans on the side, which were hot and spicy as well. So I like spicy food, so I was glad to turn up the heat on Nashville barbecue.
So I went with the catfish. I feel like we're in Tennessee. Catfish might be not a bad option. I do like catfish. I wasn't feeling really any meat, so I don't know if I can quite adequately judge a barbecue spot if I got the catfish. I enjoyed the catfish. Mac and cheese, not so great. I didn't like the cornbread, and the grits were good. So we'll go from there. Vinnie did take me to a dive bar that was the most Vinnie Duber dive bar of Vinnie Duber dive bars there is, called Dino's Ice Cold Beer or something.
Something along those lines.
It was that place was cool. Vinnie bought me a couple little pony bottles of Miller High Life. We had those. There was some Dolly Parton art on the walls, so
it was great.
It was the best part of last night for sure.
Yeah, that spot's great. I would highly recommend to all Nashvilleans that want to check that out.
And then we had to leave because Luke left his bag in our car.
Yeah, which I was telling him today, probably for the best. That we might have to leave the car at Dino's had we not had to drive it back.
That's probably true. All right, let's get into what the White Sox did today. Josh Barfield basically came out and talked to the media. We've got a clip. Steven, our producer, has it queued up, and we'll just go from there.
More things getting done, but that because there's so much interest in Cease that teams are really trying to weigh that first move before they jump on something else. So with that in mind, you guys feel the sense that a lot of teams are hesitant right now?
Yeah, I think we're in a position of leverage right now, right? Because I don't think we have to trade Cease. I think we can 2 years of control, and he's a really, really good pitcher. Like, he definitely helps us next year or so. But at the same time, we got to be smart. We got to listen on everything. And I don't think we are affected as much as far as like whether guys signing, and people are going to have interest in Cease. So if we make a move, if we don't, I think we're just going to be patient and wait for the right one.
Vinnie?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we talked about it a lot yesterday, kind of the fact that they are not showing a lot of urgency, that they're in no rush, that they might be held up by the fact that everything else is held up here around Major League Baseball right now. It does make sense, from their standpoint. They are not operating under any sort of rules that they have to trade away one of their best players, right? They can hang on to this guy. He can not only help them win in the short term, but a trade could come few months from now, if
Mhm.
need be, a few months into the season, or this time next offseason, if they don't get that right deal. I think they will end up getting that right deal, but it's just right now, everybody's kind of looking around at everybody waiting to make the first move, it seems like. And whether that's Shohei Ohtani coming off the market, whether that's Yamamoto and Blake Snell coming off the market to kind of kickstart that starting pitching run, or whether it's Tyler Glass now getting traded away from the Rays, maybe Shane Bieber away from the Guardians, or Dylan Cease away from the White Sox, it kind of seems like everybody's kind of staring at each other waiting for something to happen. Certainly, you would think that a market would be more defined once several moves or even one move has been made. So if there is a team that wants Yamamoto or Snell, doesn't get them, all of a sudden, hey, the White Sox have Dylan Cease. Why don't you come running over here? And how much of them really nice prospects are you going to send our way? So we'll see if that's the way it plays out. But certainly, whether it were the reports that we heard before these meetings even started, or what we've heard from Chris Getz and Josh Barfield in the 2 days that these meetings have been going on, it sure seems like there is no rush for the White Sox to hit the button on a Dylan Cease trade.
So, Herb, we asked in the title, should the White Sox have more urgency to kind of do a Dylan Cease trade? Do you see any need for the White Sox to do that?
No, and as he spoke, Josh Barfield in the clip is like they're in the driver's seat. They have the leverage over all the rest of the team, so there should be no urgency. The season doesn't start really until the end of March. You have up until then and past then to do anything you want with Dylan Cease. As Vinnie said, 2 years of control, and you want him on your team. Like, this is not a thing where you're trying to trade Dylan Cease because he's not good, or you're trying to trade Dylan Cease because of other reasons. You can use Dylan Cease on your Major League Baseball club, and if the other teams are not coming and paying the price that you asked for, and that's the key, the White Sox asked for. This is not a necessary negotiation. It is you're calling the White Sox. The White Sox are not probably actively calling these teams. People are coming to the White Sox, and then those people have to come correct with the White Sox offer. That's why they have the leverage. That's why they're in the driver's seat, and I'm glad that they're showing restraint. It's very not surprising, but these guys are, like I said before, first year in both of their positions, in Josh Barfield and Chris Getz, and they're just holding their cards and playing with a poker hand and a poker face that is strong and steady.
But to me, the White Sox right now are in a position where they do have a scarce resource, and the longer you wait, the more scarce it's going to get once other things start moving. So to me, it's kind of a no-brainer. At the end of the day, I still think at some point you do have to cash in on Dylan Cease to help rebuild that farm system and get, they're not going to be competing this year or maybe even next, right? So unless you think you're signing Dylan to a long-term extension, which you are not, with him being a Scott Boras client, at some point it's going to have to be done. But right now, it's not something that's necessary.
Well,
go ahead.
It's not necessary right now, but I do think like today, right now. But I do think that, your point is very valid in saying his value is only going to diminish in a trade once the season begins or a little bit into the season, because then the clock has started on those 2 years. Suddenly it's not 2 years, it's 1.5. And suddenly then it's only one, so like those, in terms of a package that they can get back for him, the highest it's going to be is before
when you have 2 full seasons.
When you have 2 full seasons,
you do it in July. Oh, it's a season and a half.
Right. And Josh Barfield says, oh, we're not really being affected by other guys signing. Teams are going to want Dylan Cease regardless. Well, yeah, that's true. But which teams, and which teams are going to be like, well, we are starving for Dylan Cease right now, so we're going to go ahead and go out and get him. But once that team signs Blake Snell, all of a sudden, no, well, we'll give you this for Blake Snell. We don't need Dylan Cease that bad anymore. Yeah. Another team might, but right now there are teams right out there that are starving for starting pitching, and if he's the best one on the market, take the highest value where you can get it, I suppose. But that's just another argument to be made. The White Sox aren't looking at it that way.
The White Sox also could be looking at the market for Tyler Glass now, where you have a 1-year guy for $25 million and see where that's going, and maybe hold on to Dylan Cease for the other year. And so next year you come back to winter meetings and you say, I saw what Tyler Glass now got. That was 1 year for $25 million. Our guy is going to be 1 year for 12, 14, $15 million. So cheaper, younger, less expensive. He's going to probably get the same or higher deal than what Tyler Glasnow and the Rays get for him in this offseason. So there is no urgency to deal him in this offseason. Bob Nightingale said a 90% chance of him going, and you can take that with a grain of salt. But with Bob and the White Sox, his information is pretty solid. But they don't have to trade him, and they can look at all their pitchers around the league who are getting deals and say, we want that type of deal, even if it's only 1 year left on Dylan Cease's contract, because Tyler Glasnow got that, and the Rays got that for Tyler Glasnow. We can go and do that the same way that they did it this year.
Yeah. Jared says they should be looking at the Orioles, asking what they are willing to do for Dylan and Luis together. Listen, for Dylan and Luis together,
no.
I want probably at least one of their entire minor league organizations, AA or AAA. Take your pick. And also want the cartoon bird on the hat.
Ooh, that's a good one.
And maybe some Boo's barbecue.
And so if it's the cartoon bird, you have to change the outfit then, right? You need to have show its feet so it can be wearing White Sox. Is that the idea? Or the White Sox just become the Chicago Orioles in this trade? Is that the idea?
I think that's the thing. I mean, Southpaw is fine, but I would much rather have the cartoon bird.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. We heard from Chris Getz yesterday that trading Luis Robert Jr. is very unlikely to happen. Probably not going to be happening at all. But we talk about, an urgency about a Dylan Cease trade. Doesn't seem like there's really any urgency across the board, right? I mean, obviously Dylan Cease was the guy that we were focused on coming into these meetings. Oh, is he going to be traded? Is he not going to be traded this week, or what's going to happen? The White Sox have a lot of other stuff that they need to get done before spring training, or I should maybe say before opening day.
Yeah.
The fact that they are looking for guys and judging by the moves that they've made already, maybe guys who aren't in the highest of demand, a Paul DeYoung, some of the guys they got in that trade with the Braves, that they might be precluded from jumping out and filling some of those other holes because people are waiting for Shohei Ohtani. It is kind of insane, the grip that is surrounding the entire sport right now.
It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. We were talking about on the CHGO podcast. Yeah, it's fine. There's 5 or 6 teams in on Shohei Ohtani, and that's going to affect, a certain amount of the upper echelon free agents, Cody Bellinger and players of those type. But, it's not like down market. It doesn't seem like it should be affecting things all that much. So.
Guys, we have some breaking news going on here.
What do we got?
Jeff Passan's saying Eric Fedde and the Chicago White Sox are in agreement on a 2-year, $15 million contract.
So there you go. It's a report at the moment, but this was reported earlier today that the White Sox were one of 2 finalists. I believe that was Mark Feinsand from MLB.com reporting that one. This is Jeff Passan over at ESPN saying that the White Sox are the finalist and that a deal is happening. So we had planned some Eric Fedde talk for later in the show. Do we want to rush that now, or you just want to get that ad break out of the way and bring on the B block?
Yeah, I was going to say that was our B block, and we didn't know that was going to be happening, but let's go. But let's, first we want to mention Goose Island, because Goose Island is CHGO's official beer. It has been Chicago's beer since 1988, and we all know about their wonderful beer roster. The Beer Hug family, the 312 Wheat Ale, the Full Pocket Pills, the Bourbon County Stout, which is out there in supermarkets and finer liquor stores everywhere in a number of varieties. Definitely recommend those for the holidays ahead when you get in front of the fire, your Christmas tree. That's a nice, full-bodied, very boozy concoction that'll leave you feeling good, Vinny. Little packs a little bit more punch than those highlights
from
ponies.
last time.
Yeah. But Goose Island, like we said, it's Chicago's beer. It's CHGO's beer. We love the events and the tailgates and the lifestyle that we live with them. So make sure you support them. You can grab your ultra fresh brewery exclusive beers at Goose Island, the original brew house on Clybourne Avenue. Those days are numbered, believe it or not. That one's closing down. I'm not exactly sure the exact date, but you don't have a lot of time to get over there. You can always go over to their tap room at Fulton Street in Westtown, a great spot to go before Blackhawks, Bulls, or concerts at the United Center. Goose Island Beer Company, Chicago's beer.
Midtown Athletic Club has 4 Chicagoland locations: Palatine in the northwest suburbs, Bannockburn in the North Shore, Willowbrook in the southwest suburbs, and Midtown Athletic Club and Hotel in the middle of Bucktown and Lincoln Park. Palatine has launched a multi-million-dollar transformation club, which will be completed in early 2024. Listeners can lock in favorable rates if they join before the end of the year. And at Midtown Athletic Club, there's something for everyone: single people, families with kids, people looking to make lifestyle changes, and holistic wellness people. One of the people who have gone to Midtown Chicago have said that it is the nicest fitness club that they've ever been to. And in calling it a fitness club is underselling it, because they have super luxe locker rooms, wet and dry saunas, premium amenities, amazing outdoor and indoor pools and hot tubs, a collection of boutique fitness studios with more than 100 classes per week included in your membership. And again, this isn't gym quality. The spaces are boutique quality. They have the arena for high intensity interval training. I think Kevin might have been in that on last Wednesday. Samadhi, if you want to do yoga, hot yoga, like Kevin found out, really tough. Everybody Fights is their boxing arena that you can go in and get the gloves going and punch some people, like Greg Braggs was trying to do to Carm, of course. Spin cycling room, win ride. Of course, I went to the group exercise because that's how I get down. That's the theater. And of course, there's the field where you guys also did some on the field training with a personal trainer to get some cross training done.
Mm-hmm.
But they are known for their best tennis courts and programming in the sport. Midtown has indoor, outdoor tennis courts, pickleball, and paddle tennis. USTA professional quality all the way. What you want to do right now is head over to midtown.com/CHGO. Find out more and tour the Midtown Athletic Club nearest you.
All right. Eric Fedde on his way to Chicago, straight from
Reportedly.
Korea. Reportedly. Jeff Passan, ESPN.com. I ran into Jeff last night outside. He didn't mention anything about this. So I also didn't ask him about it.
Yeah.
So,
everyone's asking about Shohei Ohtani, not a lot of
now
Eric Fedde conversation until right now.
Eric Fedde, by sheer necessity, as they talk of the MLB winter meetings, 2 years, $10 million. Initial 15.
Yeah.
They upped the ante.
Mm-hmm.
The report last night was 2 years, 10, and seems like the White Sox kicked in $5 more million.
Okay, so initial reactions.
Well, the White Sox need starting pitching, and I actually just asked Chris Getz, 2 hours ago, what is going to be the strategy with the starting rotation? Is it going to be like those two guys they got in the Braves trade? Are they just going to go out and get a bunch of reclamation types, low cost, low risk guys, and just throw them all in spring training and see who the top five are? Or is it we're going to try to build a rotation spot by spot? This maybe seems like maybe a little bit of a middle ground. Obviously, this is reported to be a major league deal and one worth a little bit of money. So I think you can bank on this guy being a part of the opening day rotation.
Yeah.
But it is going to be interesting to see what he does, because the last time he pitched in the major leagues, 2022, the numbers were not good. The ERA was getting up close to 6. The year before that, 2021, the ERA was at 5.5. Then he goes over to Korea last year, and he's the best player in the league. He wins the MVP award with a 20-win season, a 2-flat ERA,
180 innings.
He was awesome for the wonderfully named NC Dinos, which is a great team name over there in Korea. But I don't think anybody can go into this season knowing how that is going to translate upon a return to Major League Baseball. Certainly, he was good enough in Korea to get himself a 2-year deal. You got to applaud him for turning I guess I'll use the word again, reclamation type season into a multi-year major league contract. But is that going to pay off in any meaningful way for a team that, as you mentioned, is not expected to be contending for a division next year and is questionable what they'll be like the year after that?
I like the deal. Like, if you're looking at a player, and I said this earlier in our CHGO earlier show, you're looking at stats on the Baseball Reference, you're like, ugh, what the hell are the White Sox doing? This guy sucks. 5 ERAs up and down his whole roster for the Washington Nationals. Absolutely terrible. Goes over to KBO and wins the equivalent of the Cy Young over there, as you guys read off the numbers. And if you're looking for a comp of a person that has done the same things, look no further than Merrill Kelly, who did 4 years at the KBO and didn't pitch as well as Eric Fedde did in his 1 year. And so when he came back to the Arizona Diamondbacks, you see the type of pitcher that Merrill Kelly is, a top of the rotation type pitcher for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Now, am I expecting Eric Fedde to be that? No, he's not getting paid as such, but this is a good deal for the White Sox. It's a type of a deal that the White Sox should be making, because we know they're not going to be shopping at the top of the market for starting pitchers. This is a way you can get a player that is shown the the KBO that he can pitch at their top of that level, and it's about AA, AAA level over there, equivalent to the major league. So he's striking out real people, and he's doing really well in his job. So I think it's a good thing, and I think he developed a slider / sweeper over there, so he struck out more people than he usually does here stateside. So he'll be bringing that to the White Sox. And with Brian Bannister doing the pitch shaping and working with Ethan Katz, I think this is a great signing for the White Sox. Awesome job by Chris Getz and Josh Barfield.
So Chris Getz was actually asked about this potential deal today. He said he would not comment on that. But I'll be interested to see, okay, what did you see from him? Did Brian Bannister have a lot of input in on this? And
I know he did, and it didn't even have to be Eric Fedde. It's just the way that Chris Getz has talked and talked even today about Brian Bannister's role, really emphasizing that Brian is playing a role in player acquisition, in identifying the kind of pitchers that he can work with and he thinks will be successful for the White Sox and what they're trying to do. So it's not something where, you're going to need to necessarily go out and find, oh, well, he had a tie here, he had a tie there. That's why they brought this guy in. They brought this guy in, being Bannister, because he is good at identifying what he can find in a guy to make him successful.
Yeah, I mean, we have people on our staff like Brendan Miller comes to mind. He can actually look at the pitching charts, the movement, and just kind of know, okay, here's the improvement that this person made, and this is going to translate to major league success. And obviously Bannister is at the top of the field when it comes to that. So $7.5 million for a starter. If this does pay off, I mean, I'm sure $7.5 million. I'm sure Jerry Reinsdorf doesn't like cutting any checks, let alone something like that. But if it does pay off, it will pay off big.
What I'm interested in is how this lines up with what the White Sox are trying to do. Is it a play where they think we can get a guy that a year from now, 2 years from now, is going to be worth way more than that $7.5 million, and that creates a potential asset for them? Or do they see themselves being a AL Central contender come 2025? Hey, this is a 2-year deal. We got him now, but hey, he's going to be a good part of our rotation the next time that they are contending. And certainly it goes into some of the stuff that Chris was saying today about defining what this whole project is. Is it a rebuild? Isn't it a rebuild? Whatever you want to call it. I guess the point being, I'm interested to know, and we might not know this until next, after the 2024 season is concluded, but I'm interested to know, how does signing Eric Fedde to a 2-year deal right now help them achieve their goal for what they're trying to do?
I mean, look at the work that they've done to acquire starting arms, as the White Sox needed this. Michael Soroka, Schuster out there. Now you have Eric Fedde. You have, for all intents and purposes, a full starting rotation that pretty much have all had major league success or major league pitching in their past. Like Schuster last year, same thing with Soroka, and then Fedde a couple of years ago, but playing well this year at the KBO. Maybe don't trade Dylan Cease. As Vinnie says, maybe they're thinking this is a major league staff that can compete in the AL Central now, especially if they're getting what Fedde did last year with the Dinos. I don't expect them to have a 2 ERA, but if it's somewhere in the mid-3s, I'm thinking the White Sox are going to be very thrilled with Fedde and what the rest of the starting staff is going to do.
Well, definitely be interesting to watch. And do you think this is their big prize at the winter meetings?
I mean, certainly if we're talking about the pace at which moves have been made across baseball in the last 2 days, then this might be the prize of the winter meetings. But listen, I think Chris Getz and Josh Barfield both outlined today that life will continue after tomorrow, after everybody goes home tomorrow, and this is a unique few days on the calendar every year because all the front office folks are here together. I think the way Chris described it is you're in your room with your group and right down the hall is somebody else. Like all you got to do is walk a few feet to find maybe a potential trade partner or somebody to have a conversation with. The way the things are playing out this year, that is really not really making that big of a difference, but it doesn't mean that the talks that they are having during these 2 days, during these 3 days, won't pay off a week later, won't pay off 2 weeks later. We've heard in the past, across the game. Oh, we had these conversations at the winter meetings and they led to this. We had these conversations and they led to that. So obviously you're going to see that with the majority of teams, because here we are in the evening already on day 2, and there really haven't been that many moves made at all.
And you don't think that Jerry Reinsdorf is thrilled that he beat Steve Cohen to the deal, where it's reported that the White Sox and the Mets were the finalists. I mean, David Stearns, the general manager of the Mets now, has been a KBO guy for years. Like, he signed former KBO MVP Eric Timms. Like, he signed the current White Sox hitting coach back in the day after he won a
the
MVP.
Current White Sox hitting coach is Marcus
Timms. Sorry,
yeah.
I'm
Eric Timms is the guy you're talking about, but they're two different Timmses.
I'm confused. I'm mixing my Timms, my Rivers up, and he's always been in the KBO. So this is a big time deal for Jerry Reinsdorf. He beat his nemesis and the big money guy in Steve Cohen, the Mets owner.
Well, just so that Jerry Reinsdorf isn't dumb money, which I just saw that movie, which features Stevie Cohen. It's all about the GameStop rise up, whatever. So
yeah,
you never know.
AMC too. Yeah.
Hey, it's getting easier for businesses to switch to electric vehicles, and that is something we can all get behind, and for the health of the planet, for the well-being of all of us who share it.
Yes, the electric grid is evolving to meet your cleaner energy needs. As we all move with confidence toward electric tomorrow, whether you have one delivery van or a whole fleet of shipping trucks, ComEd can bring and help you guide and make the changes that make sense.
So, Herb, what should business owners do?
Go to ComEd.com/clean to learn more about their resources, fleet rebates, and infrastructure incentives available to help businesses go electric. If you own a business, don't wait. Start making your plan today and switch to electric vehicles. Good for business, good for the planet, and good for all of us. Go to ComEd.com/clean.
Did you say ComEd.com/clean?
I did. Yeah, go now and see how electric connects us all to a better way of doing business and a better future for future generations to come.
All right. What about Hero Bread?
I started eating Hero Bread, Kevin, because I have type 2 diabetes and I don't want to give up my favorite food. Breads, quesadillas, wraps, all that good stuff. And Hero Bread has been great for me, and it will be great for you when you do try it. If you need a low-carb option to fit your lifestyle or dietary constraints, check this out, Kevin. The founder of Hero Bread, Cole Glass, he baked 100 muffins per day.
100?
100.
What do you do with the stumps? You think I'm not paying attention over here because I'm tweeting about Eric Fedde, but I don't miss my cue, Herb.
So I was wondering if it got me. And so he cooked those 100 muffins per day before he found the perfect blend that fits into his allergy constraints. That's what pushed him to start Hero Bread. And I know when I mentioned that Hero Bread has 0 net carbs and 80 calories and 15 grams of protein, that's the least for their flour tortillas, some of you guys are turned off and you're thinking, ugh, the taste must be gross. But like, I'm here to tell you, it tastes just like your favorite flour tortilla, and it will be your favorite flour tortilla after you try it. Right now, you get a discount code on your first purchase. When you put in CHGO, you get 10% off at hero.co. Hero makes sliced breads, buns, and tortillas. They're all available at hero.co and at Amazon. As I said before, they have fewer calories than the national leading brand, 5 to 10 grams of protein per serving. But what you do right now is go to Hero Bread, and they're offering 10% off your first order. Type in the code CHGO. You get that 10% off. Just go to hero.co and use our code CHGO to save on Hero Bread today. That's HERO.co to save 10% today.
All right. So as we go forward into this offseason, no matter how long it takes, the White Sox still have holes to fill. And today, Vinnie, on an article on allchgo.com, you addressed the catcher situation and kind of thought you had some possibilities where the White Sox could go and how they could do this. You also listed some names. So take us through that.
Well, it's interesting. I think when we've asked Rick in years past, when we've asked Rick Hahn similar questions about, this position looks like a position of need, what would you do? And his response was always, well, we have a lot of internal options and we're happy with that if that's what we get, but hey, maybe there's a better option out there too. Chris Getz kind of did it a little differently, in which he did kind of run through the things that they want to accomplish this offseason, or over the course of time what the holes are on this roster, right? And he
Yeah.
did say they want to improve at catcher. Certainly right now you look at it, they've got reason to believe that the future will be bright. Edgar Caro was acquired in a deadline trade with the Angels, but he's 20 years old. He might be a little ways away from the major leagues, even though he is already at the AA level. Corey Lee is a guy that got in another deadline trade with the Astros. He played in the month of September last year. Not a big sample size, but the bat wasn't very impressive. That said, both Getz, Pedro Grifol, very impressed with how he handled the pitching staff and worked behind the plate. So the idea that they want to improve defensively there, Lee might be able to at least move them in the right direction with that. But defense is the way that I think that you have to kind of look really anytime you're considering talking about the White Sox making a move for a position player this offseason. And so I think defense first is going to be the name of the game. We don't really know whether they're going to go out and look for a catcher who would maybe push Corey Lee back and say, hey, Corey Lee, be the backup, learn from a veteran type guy. I think a veteran type guy is what they're going to do regardless, just to have that experience and that mentorship for Lee. Or are they going to say, Lee, you get the bulk of the starts, but we're going to have this guy back here and he's a little bit more certainty, and so he can be the backup. Sure. We don't know how they're going to go about this yet. Obviously, that you could make a trade for somebody that fits that description, but I think if you look toward the free agent market, at least, the guys that are available, there are some veteran names that you can maybe think about as being possibilities. Guys that, Sean or Herb, you and Sean and I have brought up before, but Austin Hedges, Victor Caratini, maybe a Tucker Barnhart, who was a Cub last year, Eric Haas, who, tormented the White Sox with the bat the last few years playing in the AL Central, and a guy in Martin Maldonado, who I think we've had multiple reports now that the White Sox are interested in bringing Maldonado aboard. Maldonado jumps off that list to me. The guy hit under 200 last year, I think, but he jumps off that list to me as a guy who makes a lot of sense for the White Sox just because very successful playing with the Houston Astros, a championship level of success there. Corey Lee has talked about learning from Martin Maldonado, treating him as a bit of a mentor when they were both in Houston. Yeah. And then Maldonado spent a brief time in Kansas City when Pedro Grifol was a coach there. Obviously, Pedro has a history of being very catcher-focused as well. So that's what jumps out at me. Do not expect it to be a bat-first guy. Multiple of these guys have below 200 batting averages, but they do one thing that the White Sox would like really, really to have on their roster, and that's play really good defense behind the plate and work with the pitching staff.
So my friend Tim Brown just wrote a book this year called The Tao of the Backup Catcher, and it's a really good book. And it's so much about what those guys bring to teams, right? And it's a lot of it is the intangibles, the life experience, just the general sense of playing a role on a team, executing, elevating others' play. Pedro Grifol and Chris Getz are really serious about this. Okay, we want to get back to the fundamentals, right? They kind of need one of these guys, and they kind of need the right guy. So which one of those guys is it going to be? And then also just going forward, it's clear that they're building up the middle, and maybe they have those guys to do it in the future with Caro and Lee, but they need to get to that point. So hopefully they are able to identify somebody and start instilling that, going forward.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of it. I mean, when Corey Lee showed up after that trade with the Astros, not even when he showed up, when he was talking to us on Zoom after they got him, right? He jumped out and talked about how much Martin Maldonado meant to him in terms of that. We saw comments from Carlos Correa on the Twins during the playoffs when the Astros knocked the Twins out of the playoffs this year, asking, hey, why was it that the Astros pitching staff was able to have your number? And obviously, remember, Carlos Correa, longtime Astro before he went to Minnesota, and he brought up Martin Maldonado. He knew how to game plan. He was able to walk them through everything. To have that sort of presence, I think, is exactly right what you're talking about. That's exactly what Pedro Grifol and Chris Getz want. Now, that's a guy who's obviously won a lot. If we're here talking about those type of attributes, certainly the baseball world knows that he has them. He might be desired by someone else, and that's possible. Sure. But the idea of a guy who is reliable back there, Lee and Caro are still developing, and I think that whether they come out and set the world on fire or not, you want a guy that is going to be able to run a pitching staff and run a game the way that you want it run, and I think a lot of these guys kind of fall into those categories.
Yeah, and I think that as you said, they spoke about chemistry yesterday, and at least Pedro did in his press conference. And I think you need to have a lieutenant that understands what you do as a manager. He didn't have a lot of those people. I mean, Andrew Benintendi is a mostly quiet guy. He understood what Pedro wanted, but there's a bunch of people in that locker room, as he said, like pretty much no leaders in that locker room last year. So having a catcher like Martin Maldonado, if they try to go and get him, is a good forward step for Pedro's battle standard. He can have a person that says, I've seen Pedro in work. He's helped me catch, and I've been to the mountaintop of winning World Series with the Astros. I know what it takes, and you guys will follow me. And with this pitching staff coming together, it's good to have a veteran, solid receiver back there that pitchers can trust, because I believe this, and I don't know for certain, that there were times where people didn't want to throw pitches because they didn't believe that they had enough faith in Yasmani Grandal to block that, even though he was, I think, all right blocking catcher last year. And the same thing with other catchers the White Sox had. So having a veteran catcher who is defense first in Martin Maldonado, of that type of catcher, I think will go a long way for the White Sox in defending and having defense as the number one thing that they want to do. And then you can have the offensive players at every other position. You can sacrifice a couple of the points on the average if you have Martin Maldonado, because the defense and the leadership speaks volumes, and it gives you value more than you get from a person that's just bringing bat.
So you saw Tony La Russa today.
I did.
Did he have anything to say about this position?
I didn't. I didn't talk to him. He was just like, he was like walking past me, just going to get some lunch at the Cascade restaurant. Looks great, by the way.
That's good.
Didn't dye his hair. It's nice and gray. That's what you should go. Age gracefully. Just let that ink go. And he looks like he's gained a little weight from the last time we saw him at a major league ballpark, where maybe it was a bad angle, but looks like the same weight he was when a White Sox manager. Looks really healthy and good. It's good to see the man out there. As I said before, I don't wish the man ill will. I just didn't want him to be the White Sox manager.
Excellent. Looking forward to tomorrow. The Rule 5 draft is on tap. The White Sox have made moves to clear space on that 40-man roster. Do you see them being active tomorrow?
Probably. We'll see. I think, let's put it this way, whether you plan on making moves or not, I don't think you can come to the winter meetings with a certainty that you're going to need a roster spot unless you are hoping to add somebody in the Rule 5 draft. And so I think that's the reason that roster spot was cleared. We do not know when the reported signing of Eric Fedde would become official. He would obviously take a spot on that 40-man roster and require another move if they wanted to add someone in the Rule 5 draft. If that happens before then,
right.
We see the reports saying that it is pending a physical, so it's possible that will take a little bit of time to get done. This might not be announced right away tomorrow, right before the Rule 5 draft happens. They might take somebody, dedicate the roster spot to him, and deal with the fallout, the Fedde fallout in the days that come. So
Gotcha.
We'll see how that happens. But yeah, I would expect that when we do our show tomorrow, we will be talking about another addition to the White Sox via the Rule 5 draft.
By the way, we didn't talk about another point of news today. The MLB draft lottery was actually held right behind these doors. Now, had it been the NBA, NFL, or NHL draft lottery, we would all been on pins and needles waiting for something. That wasn't the case. Like, we just kind of waited for it to happen. The White Sox had the 4th worst record, which meant they had the 4th best odds, but they actually fell a spot and pulled number 5.
Yeah, it turns out that a team that wasn't eligible to be in the top 6 picks, it wasn't eligible to be in the top 10 picks, the Washington Nationals, actually won the draft lottery. But so since they weren't eligible, that eventually went to the Cleveland Guardians. But yes, the White Sox got a top 5 pick for next year's draft. Most industry insiders say that 2024's draft, not chock full of a lot of great players, no like world beaters, MLB draft, as Vinnie said, it's a crapshoot. But the 2025 draft is supposed to be chock full of those type of players, including at the top of there with Ethan Holiday, who is the son of Matt Holiday and the brother of Jackson Holiday, who is the number 1 prospect right now in Major League Baseball. So the White Sox won't be in the draft lottery no matter what next year. They can only pick, I think their highest position they could pick next year is 10th, or 2025, the highest position they can pick is 10th because of rules that MLB made up.
But I think
which sucks because you drop a spot, which you know, and then now I don't know.
The
I
thing,
don't love it.
The thing that I think is funny though, and my apologies to all the MLB draft nicks out there, but I think the thing is funny is that was it you asking me today, like, hey, the MLB draft lotteries today, the White Sox have a decent chance at number one, and your question to me was, is there a Bryce Harper?
Right.
And it's like, how long ago do you have to go back to the time when there was a Bryce Harper?
Was that 2010?
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Steven Strasburg,
15 years ago. So my point being that, like, the MLB draft hardly ever has a guy like that. And so, it's not a knock on all those guys who were taken with the number one pick, but let's be honest, you got just as good a chance of hitting with the next cornerstone of your franchise at 5 as you do at 1.
I get that, but at the same time too, like, the White Sox weren't tanking. Like, these rules actually are there to prevent tanking.
Correct.
Well, they did make a run at this. It failed miserably, right? It's not like they didn't spend zero money, right? So, but they're being penalized for being a big league market. So you lose a spot, and yes, you could find that guy at number 5. You can find that guy at number 10, but
you can find that guy in the 10th round. Yep.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Or the 38th round, like Mark Burley.
Yeah. Honestly, and I just think, like, no, it's funny.
Yeah.
To give you a peek behind the curtain, folks, me and Herb were talking about this before the show starts, and he's like, oh, well, he's been reading the rules all day, so he was locked in on the MLB draft lottery, and he goes, oh, well, we got to make sure we get the lottery news in there. I go, do we have to mention it? Is it that big of a deal? Like, and again, that might be my bias coming through, but it's just the way that I think it, because you brought it up,
right.
The way you think of it compared to the drafts in the other sports.
But what's funny is, like, so we launched CHGO in March of 2022, and to this date, like, 2 of my fondest memories are, one, the Bears securing the top pick. We had the video going on in the studio when the Texans beat the Colts to do that. And Corey Wooten's going nuts, and Braggs is humping the bear, and we put it up, and it gets 30, 40,000 views. And then, I mean, to me, probably the best moment in CHGO history to this point is CHGO Blackhawks watching the draft lottery live. Mario's going nuts, Greg is going nuts, Zawoski's losing his mind, Lawrence is running around. Had the White Sox somehow snuck into number 1, or even the Cubs were in the lottery, right?
Yep.
I would have had the video on Herb or Cody or Luke, and it probably just would have been
right. That's baseball.
Shrug.
That's baseball.
As my guy Ian Estridge, who's a Daily White Sox, says, they got the second to worst pick they could have got. The 6th pick would have been the worst pick they got, but the 5th pick precludes them from being in next year's draft lottery. But to support your point, Vinny, about number 1 overall picks, there's only been 3 Hall of Famers that have been number 1 overall picks. One, of course, the White Sox, Harold Baines. Another one is Chipper Jones, and the other one is, of course, Ken Griffey Jr. So it's not a lot. It's a crapshoot, as you said. And until recently, Ken Griffey Jr. got in and Harold Baines got in, it was 0.
Sometimes you get David Need. Was Need overall?
I'm going to need an explanation on who that is.
That went right over my head.
It was David Need, the first pick in the expansion draft. I can't remember. I don't know. Brian Taylor? That do anything for
you? Yankees.
I don't know who that is.
Brian Taylor.
Big bust.
That was the last time the Yankees had the number 1 pick.
Big bonus baby, Brian Taylor, and then he did nothing. His parents spelled his name with the E in Brian.
Yeah. All right. That should do it for the CHGO White Sox podcast here at the winter meetings in Nashville. We appreciate you watching. On your way out, make sure you smash that like button. We'll be back tomorrow. I think the time is a little up in the air. I think it might be a little earlier, depending on it. So stay tuned. Locked on to CHGO_sports on Twitter, CHGO_White Sox on Twitter. For Vinnie Duber, for Herb Lawrence, for our producer Stephen Nicholas, I'm Kevin Kaduk. We'll see you tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.